morning. Welcome to Coffee with KPP Live. Today is Tuesday, December 15th, and my name's Kyle Roy, financial advisor with Kentucky Planning Partners, and I'm so glad and grateful to be joined with my friend Mike Lynch, who is a dear friend of mine and CFO of Fireking. Welcome, Mike.
Well, thank you for having me, Kyle. It's a pleasure to be here.
My pleasure. Thank you. This is something you and I have been talking about, dreaming about for a long time, a podcast/show where the two of us get to talk about the things that we often talk about.
Right, and the great thing is you made it reality by getting out there and taking a chance and doing it. I'm just happy to be here.
Hey, I'm glad, and I'm glad to have great team, great partnership to be able to do this and bring this to the world. So today, Mike and I are going to be talking about is physical fitness and physical health, business and financial health as the CFO of Fireking, but also having been the CFO of several companies before. We're going to talk about preparation and how making sure that you're prepared. We don't know where we are in the business cycle, the economic cycle at any given time, but Mike has successfully navigated his company with his leadership team through the pandemic and really had a phenomenal year.
Wonderful.
Business-wise, given all the difficulties. So we're going to talk about that. But first, I really want to talk about Mike's physical accomplishments. He is an Ironman, has run 5 ultra marathons, one of which, his most difficult, biggest accomplishment, a 40-mile race during the pandemic this year. Mike has been one of the leaders of a group in Louisville that I've been a part of for almost 2 years called F3. It's a national organization, but Mike has helped start that in Louisville. One of the not founding members, but one of the
early adopters
in town, and now there are over 750 people, members throughout the city. So first and foremost, Mike, so tell us a little bit about you. You've got a beautiful family, wife, 2 beautiful kids, all physically active. But tell us a little bit about what you've done, your ultra marathon prowess, and a little bit about the disciplines that you have to make sure you stay in top peak physical condition.
Yeah, of course. So, so Kyle, I think looking back at kind of how I got into some of the physical fitness, sort of these endurance challenges, it really goes with the way that I try to live my life, which is looking out at what's going to be a challenge and seeking that out and not really backing down from that kind of challenge, because sometimes you may fall short of a huge goal. You and I had planned on running a 45 or 50-mile run across what's billed as the Grand Canyon of the Southeast at the Breaks Interstate Park, and COVID may or may not have thrown that off kilter, but we still went out, we still trained quite a bit for that. And so if I rewind back in high school time period, I had an uncle, and he was really into Ironmans and triathlons. And this was back in the days when NBC would put the Ironman coverage from Hawaii on television, and you would see it all wrapped up beautiful in a 1-hour bow, and it was a great show. And everyone looked like they were suffering, and yet this moment of elation when they crossed the finish line, and I thought, I need some of that in my life. And I had this problem of I didn't really know how to swim. If I got in the pool, I wasn't going to drown, but there's a difference between that and swimming for exercise. So I had to learn how to swim, and then I didn't have a bike, so I had to go buy a bike. And
how old were you when you had this dream, when you had this vision?
So I was probably in college, but it took until I was, late 20s to start making this happen. And it took 3 years from the time I started triathlon and my first race, which was super, super short, to actually making it to Ironman Louisville the first year that it was here. And every step of the journey was a heck of a lot of fun. During that Ironman training for the summer, I had to, kind of work through some injuries. And, ultimately I knew I had enough base fitness. It was just going to be, could I endure the level of discomfort on the day of the race to make it to the finish line?
Well, and to give you perspective on what an ultra marathon is, for those of you who don't know, it's a marathon is 26.2 miles.
Right.
An ultra marathon is any marathon greater than 26.2 that's on trails, correct?
They have some on the roads, but yeah, a lot of them are on trails.
Okay, so a trail being out in the woods, and this Breaks ultra marathon that Mike actually convinced me to sign up for. I didn't follow through as well as Mike did. It was canceled because of COVID, and Mike pushed through that adversity and again ran a 40-mile race on his own. He and a good friend of ours did that, and now you're actually training for the Boston Marathon, or trying to.
Hopefully, we'll see.
So talk us through that. What does that mean? What does that mean?
So the Boston Marathon is certainly one of the premier events. It has a standard to qualify. It's graded based on your age, and so the younger you are, if you're young like Kyle and I, you have to run really fast in the 3-hour, 10-minute range,
which is about a 7-minute mile,
right around 7 minutes.
Okay.
So,
which is a sprint for me. A 7-minute mile over 26.2 miles. That's fast.
It's moving along. So I have some work to do. The challenge with the ultra marathons is out on the trails. You just tend to slow down quite a bit. So a 10-minute mile isn't out of the ordinary there. In fact, it's pretty fast. But when your body gets used to that, running 7-minute miles seems like you're flying. So I have some work to do, and that'll start kind of in the January time period.
So Mike is a leader in this group this workout group started in Charlotte, North Carolina. Is called F3. You can look it up online, and it's a men's workout group. There's a female workout group called Females in Action as well, which is the sister organization. I know that there were a couple chapters for FIA in Louisville, but I'd encourage everybody to look into that, especially during COVID. It's out there, outdoor workouts. They're free, and there just is a level of camaraderie that is just phenomenal that has spread throughout the city. And Mike is a leader among the group. And for instance, there was a 12 Days of Christmas initiative that Mike led a small group of people to do, and that accomplished that task where for the first 12 days, Mike gradually ran 1 mile on December 1st, 2 miles on December 2nd, then closed out with a 12-mile run. It was a 78 miles over a 12-day period. So that while training for the Boston Marathon, while getting out, we were working out at 5:30 this morning, and Mike, before we started, had already run about a mile. And so tell us a little bit about your diet and the discipline that you have. So speaking generally, what kind of discipline do you have? And because I think your success as an athlete has clearly carried over to your success in business and in life. So talk about some of the disciplines that you have and how you're able to maintain such a high standard of performance.
So my diet has evolved over time. It was not, back when I was training for the Ironman, it was not as good as it is now. As I've gotten older, I've grown to like more food. But during that time, it was your standard American pizza on Friday night, which was good, long bike ride fuel. Hamburgers. It was not very good, and yet I still got amazing performance out of my body. I can remember finishing my first half Ironman, and my uncle, who I really wanted to be like, also completed the race alongside of me, and we finished, and he said, "Wait a minute, you did this drinking water, a little bit of Gatorade, and a couple, like one gel packet. And this was a 5.5 hour event. Yeah, isn't that what you're supposed to do?" So, so I just didn't know what I didn't know. Over the last several years, my wife has, kind of strong-armed a little bit of our food decision making, and a couple years ago, she decided that we would really work on cleaning up our diets, and so we went to eating mostly whole foods, plant-based, or very simple. Did it grow on a tree, on a vine? Did it come from another animal? Could you effectively say, here's a single source for the food source? And just started really preparing a lot of our own food at home. And what we noticed was how much better we felt. how much easier it was to control just portion size. And, while that amount of discipline could seem restrictive, and it did at the beginning, because I said, Sarah, there's no way that I want to do this. And in fact, she started it on her own. And then I joined in. And what I found was having very specific kind of rules of engagement allowed us the freedom to make really good and smart choices. Several years ago, and you wouldn't tell by looking at my hair now, but all of my hair fell out. It was stress-induced alopecia, and my wife had been diagnosed with cancer, and so I took to the internet like anyone does when they're trying to find the answer. And so it looked like part of the solution could be shifting some of my diet. So I switched to a plant-based diet and just cut meat out altogether. I've slowly integrated a little bit in, but still largely plant-based. What I found was I felt amazing at the end of it, just because my body wasn't fighting to break down food, and it could run cleaner. So, just trying to listen to what's happening around us, and in our lives, that's really what we have to do. And I guess as I've gotten older, I figured out that everything is so interconnected, and that may be one of the reasons I love going out to the trails, because you're just surrounded by nature. It's quiet. There's not cars everywhere. It's really peaceful, and you can kind of see how we fit into the bigger picture.
Yeah, and so kind of a couple things that I heard was to accomplish a goal. So we'll transition into business, but if I were to sum up, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but to accomplish the goals that you have. So many people see marathon runners or Ironmen and women come across that finish line, and you can see the elation. But just listening to Mike briefly, some of the things I picked up on is preparation. Your first Ironman, he had the vision in college, or sooner perhaps. It wasn't until his late 20s that he accomplished that, but there was 3 years of real hard training. When we look at now the training for the Boston Marathon, it's things like the 12 Days of Christmas, getting out early, running before the 5:30 workouts that we have with F3 to prepare. That level of discipline, and that it takes a kind of a courage, but more with a wherewithal to just see it through. And that comes into preparation. The third thing is the difficulty in change. So you recognize that you had to adapt at a certain age, you adapt your diet, and change can seem scary at times, and change can be very difficult. But in order to accomplish that goal, generally those first steps, whether it's the first week, maybe even the first month after that change, it might be a struggle. Yeah, I bet when you went to that plant-based diet, a Big Mac, a Mac Attack was looking pretty good at certain times. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But after a while, it sounds like that became your normal.
Yeah.
And the fourth piece is you had a partner in Sarah, your wife. Obviously, she's a cancer survivor, extremely strong, powerful woman in her own right. Not only that, but to put up with you,
no doubt.
But to have a partner and an accountability partner, and somebody that you can lean on and work with and support you, all those things. So success isn't just something that you wake up and you accomplish. It's not something that comes by chance. It doesn't come by luck. One of my favorite lines is that you make your own luck, and you clearly have.
Well, thank you.
So let's carry that over. So the preparation in life also carries over to your business. So tell us a little bit about Fireking, if you don't mind. So the company you work for now, and what should they know about Fireking?
Well, if you don't mind, I'd back up just a little. You're exactly right, Kyle. It's everything that I've done so far in my career. The first 20 years really prepared me for what I'm facing now, and what I faced for the last couple of years at Fireking. So a little bit about Fireking. We are a private equity sponsored business. We've been held by our sponsor for a little over 10 years. I've been at Fireking now for 6 years. Came in as the controller and was promoted to CFO about 4 years ago. And during that time, we've gone through quite a bit of transformation. So that has been in the business and what it looked like, and now certainly what it looks like today. But who we are and what we do. The company originally started off with a primary product, which was a fireproof file cabinet, and over the years became the industry leader in that space. Then the owner and entrepreneur, he branched out into safes. So anything from a traditional box with a lock on it to smart safes. They have technology embedded inside to accept bills and coins and count the currency, as well as to determine if it is counterfeit, and then communicate with your bank, your armored car provider, your back office. So really about adding not only security but efficiency to your operation.
So it's for primary commercial safes, or do you also do for residential safes as well?
Generally commercial.
Okay.
There are some residential applications, but mostly commercial.
All right.
And then as a natural complementary business, we have a service division that goes out to service with factory trained technicians. Some of those technicians, about 60 to 70, are direct Fireking employees. And then we have several hundred partners across the country who have been trained by Fireking to go out and service our product. So we have the ability to service our product, of course, as well as other safes that are out in the market.
So commercial safes, obviously during a pandemic, that's got to be a difficult model, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that we were talking about in preparing for this conversation was, how has COVID-19 affected the business, and how were you ready for it? So obviously nobody could have prepared for the impact of COVID-19, but what we see as financial advisors when we're looking at companies and we're looking at investment opportunities, the companies that have really fared well are the companies that had prepared for a rainy day, which there really is a parallel there to the individuals and the families that have prepared well or are faring better than others, are those that had the safety net secure, had cash reserves, or had the ability to pare back their income but not necessarily sacrifice their lifestyle. So from a business leadership perspective, what had you guys done before? Obviously couldn't have foreseen the pandemic, but what kind of steps had you taken to prepare for a downturn like this?
Yeah, so being a private equity sponsored business, the owners look at the financial statements on a frequent basis, every month, and then quarterly we have board meetings. And the good thing is they're professional investors, so they understand the numbers that they're looking at. They look at a large number of businesses, so they're able to help add value by helping to kind of come alongside the CFO or the finance team to make improvements. And over the years, we had invested in different areas of the business, and some of those paid off pretty nicely, and some of those, like when you make an investment just in your personal life, sometimes they just don't turn out exactly the way you want them to. So we really kind of had to pull back, look at what was going on in our business. Were we as healthy? Were we performing as strong as we could or should be? And from that point, we had to start making just kind of some of the decisions around who did we want to be in the next couple of years.
Wow.
And just like,
That's a really powerful question, and I think that's a question that everybody could have. Who do we want to be in a couple years, right? There's that cliche question that people always get, well, where do you see yourself in 5 years? But I think so many people are asked that but don't really think beyond the answer, maybe in an interview or something like that. But it sounds like you and your leadership team literally sat back and said, where do we want to see ourselves in 2, 3, 5 years? What are we good at? What are we not good at? And those are difficult questions to ask yourselves personally, but also to look at yourselves as business leaders. You're kind of being honest about your own report card, so to speak. Sounds like a difficult
Sure.
task.
Well, it is, Kyle, and when you have to look at inside of your own, functional area, your, call it, quote, span of control, it's even more challenging because that's when you're looking right back, it's in the mirror and you're saying, this is where I failed.
Yeah.
And we have to make some adjustments along the way, and what are those going to look like, and how do we get this corrected?
Yeah.
One of the areas, it seems so basic, but when you sell your product, you want to put an invoice in somebody's hands, and you want that invoice to be right. Mm-hmm. The customer wants it to be right. We want it to be right. Everybody wants it to be right, because if it's not right, they can't pay you. And then you wind up in this whole gigantic headache of cash flow, right? So, we had a number of customers who said, you guys perform your service better than anybody else that we have across our entire platform. These are large national players who many of you would have heard of. And they said, look, you guys do all of these things, which are really complicated, really well, but you have a hard time actually giving me an invoice. Well, that lands right on my shoulders. So,
sure.
So our team had to go back to work and really evaluate and look at where these things were kind of coming off the rails. And as companies and our customers have become more and more sophisticated, so accounting systems, ERP systems have evolved over the years. The way that invoices go in often is electronic. So, one of my team members started looking into some third-party kind of bolt-on type of solutions that could help ease that burden on our team. Because the other option was have a staff of people doing nothing except uploading pieces of paper into, picture a scanner, and it then being sent into cyberspace. So, this individual did a heck of a job trying to corral our system with a third party's system in order to make it much, much smoother. And we implemented that program about 9 months ago, 10 months ago, and in that period of time, that vendor has processed nearly 100,000 transactions for us.
Amazing.
Which those would have been transactions somebody had to handle with their two hands.
So if handle with their two hands during a pandemic where stay-at-home orders would came in literally a month or two after that. So
right.
So what I take from that is you had the humility to be able to look yourselves in the mirror as a leadership team, and I think this is valuable advice for business leaders, for business owners, for individuals as you're looking at your own life or your future, your business, your financial well-being. Have that humility to be able to look in the mirror and say, do I need help? Do I need to consult others? Where can we get better? Everybody's got a blind spot. Everybody's got weaknesses. Nobody's perfect by any means. And I think what you guys did was phenomenal. So let's fast forward a little bit now to the pandemic. How have you fared this year? I know you said you've had a great year as a company, which is hard to believe because a company, Fireking, that's delivering or providing safes for primarily commercial businesses. So you've got restaurants, stores, which have really. So how have you done, and how has your business had to evolve this year?
So we were fortunate that a large number of our customers were considered. It's hard to believe. If you rewind back 9 months, 10 months, that there was this term essential and non-essential that was talked about hourly. But we were fortunate. So many of our customers really fell into the essential category. So our portfolio includes gas stations, convenience stores, as well as pharmacies. And those types of businesses, as well as fast casual type restaurants and quick serve. So largely they were staying open, albeit maybe indoor dining capacity was cut or things of that nature. So So we were very fortunate that we didn't lose, all of the base. But some certain businesses, specialty retailers, they were hit incredibly hard this year because the malls generally were forced to shut down.
That's right.
So,
Well, and it's ironic too, because you would think, yes, business has been tough, but those businesses that stayed open, we have seen economic decline as quickly as we did. Granted, the markets have rebounded. We've had stimulus that has been filtered through the economy very well, but unemployment is still high.
mm-hmm.
We had social unrest before the election. Continue to have social unease without question across the country. So you could make a case too. You don't buy. It's probably difficult for business owners, business leaders to buy safes during peacetime, right? It's almost like how many people may have wanted a safe as there were riots potentially down the street. We saw certain parts burn, and it almost sounds like that's like trying to put your seatbelt on in the middle of a car crash.
No, sadly, you're right. Those types of events cause, they wind up causing a reaction at times. You wind up having a business where there's a robbery event and an employee gets hurt, or God forbid, loses their life. That makes a business altering choice, and you'll see those businesses react very quickly because they have to. And it is a tough balancing act, simply because if you're sitting in my seat of one of our customers, they're saying, okay, how does this put another couple of pennies of EPS on the bottom line?
EPS being
earnings per share.
Yeah.
So the all important indicator every quarter when Wall Street looks at the numbers. So so how does it do that? Well, if you don't do it, you could have a massive other problem on the hands too. And now with social media, things spread even quicker. You really have to be on your game, so to speak, all the time. And the pandemic was the same, as you said, the social unrest, because many of our customers were in areas that were directly impacted by social unrest. And so our technicians had to go into some of those areas to repair a unit or to install a new unit.
Wow.
And, we made it very clear from the get-go, listen, you are in charge of your destiny here. So if you're not safe, you don't feel safe going into an environment, it is your responsibility to tell us and to say, I can't go in there right now.
That's what you told your technicians, your employees.
Their safety was paramount.
Yeah.
And we took the same approach on COVID, and we're still taking a very, very conservative approach.
So let's talk about that, because how has stay-at-home been for you? Has it been? Are there any things that you couldn't have foreseen regard to stay-at-home? Is the business still running efficiently? I mean, how has it been for Fireking? Disruptions, running better or worse? How's it been?
It's been eye-opening. If you had asked me in February, when you and I were running, we ran on February 29th. So 2 weeks before the world just kind of like shifted on us. And I can remember where we were, and we were talking about there's going to be this giant event. Don't know what it is, but it'll happen in the next 12 months. And sure enough, it happened like in the next 12 days. And
my crystal ball was pretty good.
Really close.
Yeah, but that was, it was. Yeah, we were talking about that, about just how it just felt like there was something coming, and it was really incredible. But
so, if you had asked me as we were sucking wind going up the next hill, if I would be sending my employees home to work for the next 6 months or indefinite, I would say there's no way. I don't know what they're going to be doing. I don't know how I'm going to check up. I don't, there's going to be all these things that I don't know. And that was really fear, because we had a large, just kind of office-based staff. And it was so office based that most people only had a desktop computer. So the lion's share of our folks did not even have a laptop PC that they could take home and work just in the evenings if they wanted to, or any of that type of flexibility. So my IT team, as this thing started to build and build and build, and I have to give a huge shout to our safety director, because she saw this and she started throwing the warning flags up and said, there is a global pandemic coming through. And I kept thinking, no, it's not going to be that bad. America will get through this. This isn't going to be an issue here. And
a little bit of pride seeped in there.
Sure, right?
Of course, yeah.
And some of it is you just don't know what you don't know.
That's right.
Never been through this. Thankfully, even though she had not been through it, she just kept consistently, kind of beating the drum and helping us get there.
And cheers to you all for trusting her. You put her in a role, gave her a job for a reason. It sounds like she just hit the ball out of the park.
She did a marvelous job helping to get us from A to B, and it wasn't just her; it was our entire team.
And how is everybody faring working from home? Have you seen productivity maintained?
Productivity has stayed very, very high. Just in my team, in the accounting, the database team, and our IT teams, we haven't missed a beat. In fact, we've picked up steam along the way.
Wow.
Our financial statement close is going faster, smoother than it's ever gone. Some of that, we have a little less complexity today than we did previous, but in general, the team communicates through instant message. They pick up the phone, they call one another. We're also not necessarily seeing as much somebody just stopping by your office or your cube and kind of chit-chatting for 5 or 10 minutes, which is a really nice thing about being in the office. Yet when you get 15 of those in a day, now all of a sudden it has derailed somebody's production. And I mean, let's face it, I'm an accountant and I have a team of accountants, so we generally like to keep our heads down and get stuff done. So so that type of team tends to perform well in that. Our call center, because we have about 40 different service agents who are on the phone troubleshooting when our customers call in, those generally were folks who were also almost always in the office. And in about a 2-week period, our IT team was able to find a workaround solution to get everybody out and remote and working from home.
Everybody's safe, healthy, and still working toward that vision.
And we've seen that team be able to perform very strong as well. They have a lot of metrics, as call centers typically do, and those metrics have remained consistent and started to improve. During the early days of COVID, as expected, kind of the call volumes decreased. Just a lot of businesses being closed.
Sure.
Then over the summer, as things opened back up, call volumes increased. Those teams, albeit with fewer folks on them, were able to keep up, serve our customers, and then we started to see the call volumes normalize off, and they've continued to perform very strong.
I think in the last couple minutes, one of the things I want to talk about is your vision for the future. So as advisors, one of the calls that we often get on a daily basis from our clients is fear, right? We are still in the midst of the pandemic. Unemployment is still at a relatively high place to where we've recently been. There's a lot of uncertainty out there. We do have the election pretty much behind us for the most part. We have the election in Georgia, which is a big deal, and there's a lot of uncertainty. We still have divide politically in our country surrounding that. But I always like to tell clients it's so important to, you've heard me say this, follow the money, right? Follow the money. Money is unemotional, and it's really important, I think, to gauge and have your finger on the pulse of businesses like yours, because Fireking is in that commercial space so heavily. If people don't have safes, if they have nothing that they want to protect, quite frankly. So what do you have any ideas, outlooks for the future? You sound really optimistic now. You sound, granted, past performance is no indication of future results. As advisors, we can't predict the future. We don't know what's going to happen, but we can have a pretty we can have a pretty good idea of where we're going based on some of the the fact that you're seeing the trend in the right way. We're seeing businesses run efficiently and effectively, even with stay-at-home orders. And a year ago, we never could have imagined that type of business model working. So what does the future look like for you and Fireking?
Wow, that's great, and your timing's really good. We're working through our 2021 plans currently, so we're facing down that exact question. Certainly expect it to be strong in 2021. The first part of the year, no doubt, is going to be bumpy. We're going to see the vaccine roll out. It's probably not going to go quite as smooth as we all hope it will. But I think if we're patient, it's going to be there. But it is going to be bumpy because this year, from just kind of a bankruptcy activity, it's been nearly unprecedented. Just a number of Main Street big name companies that have filed Chapter 11 this year has been enormous. Fortunately, we've fared pretty well through that, but it still makes a huge impact because those are jobs for thousands of Americans, and they're all make money, pump it into the economy, and all that kind of stuff. So even though those brands will largely survive, maybe on a pared back basis, you are going to see fewer people. The good news, I think, is this is a land of opportunity, so somebody's going to fill into the right voids. And as we start to see that, I think restaurants are going to start either reopening or you may have a server who said, hey, I had this great idea, and they're going to take it and run with it because there's going to be a lot of money out there. Now that the election is behind us, it looks like we're going to have some favorable Treasury policies. So ideally we'll see a lot of bank loans and that type of stuff continue to be available. So with liquidity in the market, that'll be good. From our standpoint, I know that there's a lot of money sitting from private equity, so they're going to continue to be active. So we're going to continue to see that piece. So I think in general, there's a lot of reason for optimism. It may take the first quarter or somewhere into Q2, early Q3 before things, really start coming back. But a lot of folks have taken this time to, shore up their own personal balance sheets, save, pay down debt, and things of that nature. And so when things open back up, I think we're going to see a lot of spending, which means people, our customers are going to be in need of either more of our, physical product and or more of our service if they're keeping some of their legacy equipment running longer.
Mm-hmm. And you guys have positioned yourselves, your business, to be able to get there. So
Absolutely.
there is a light at the end of this tunnel, and you guys are a leader in the industry of safe, protecting a company's valuables and cash, whatever. And you guys are going to continue to be that. So kudos, hats off to you. Congratulations.
Well, thank you, Kai.
Thank you. And some of the things that I take away from our conversation is going back to whether it's your physical health, the accomplishments that you've made, Ironman, ultra marathons, Boston Marathon. I have no doubt you're going to be able to do that, and I look forward to watching you.
Coming along.
That's right.
You're going to do it too.
I'll watch. I'll watch. I'll be the guy at mile 12 giving you a cup of water on the side is what I'll do. But I have no doubt you'll do it, and I think the first thing to remember is preparation, right? Preparation isn't just about executing a plan. It's about making a plan and figuring out what you need to do, and every single thing that you do, it's the day in and the day out. It's the climb of the mountain, not necessarily the peak of the mountain, that the journey lies. And there's so many things that you have done and continue to do, both physically and in the business, right? Mm-hmm. It's no coincidence that you guys have come through COVID-19 successfully because of your preparation. You saw as a team where you wanted to be in the future. You took a step back and humbly looked at yourself and figured out what you needed to do to get there. And I think that's the second part of it, having a vision, having a dream, having a place where you want to be and working to get there. And without that preparation, it's kind of like a rudderless ship. I always use that example. You've heard me say it before. You might be a ship without a rudder, and you might get to where you want to go, but it'd be purely luck.
Yeah, absolutely.
The preparation's there. You've got Sarah, your wife, helping you stay accountable. So having partnerships, you have great business partners. You've surrounded yourself by great people to get there, and I think that's the third leg of a multi-legged stool. So I'm so grateful for you, Mike. Keep doing what you do. Keep just being a leader, and thank you for being a friend. And I'm so grateful to have had you. Any thoughts? Closing thoughts?
Well, I'd echo all of those thoughts, of course, and very happy to have been able to participate today. You're right, Kyle. Preparation is always the key. There's any number of different quotes that are out there, right? We can do, anything we want. We just can't do everything at the same time. And so it's important to recognize where you're headed and where you're going, and, be part of the process, enjoy the process, and some days you got to slow down in order to get faster later. And that's what we did a couple of years ago, and it has paid off quite well for us so far.
Brilliant. And where can people find Fireking? What's the website?
So we are firekingsecurityproducts.com, and you can find us on Facebook at Fireking, and so look forward to many, many more years of serving our fantastic customers.
Fantastic. So on behalf of everybody here at KPP, Mike, thank you for joining us. And my name's Kyle Roy, financial advisor with KPP, Kentucky Planning Partners. We are on the heart of Louisville's east side, here at the top of the Flash Cube building. If you have any questions, concerns as a business owner, individual, and you want to sit down and help create a vision for your future and work with great people and do what it takes to prepare to realize that dream, give us a call. We're here to help you out. Our phone number is 502-394-0400. Again, my name's Kyle Roy, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Have a great week.